Perfect.
Who better than Derek, Pat, Andrew, the wrestling crew? Man, they bout to put an end to y'all careers like a finishing move. They bout to give y'all facts on these cats that's fighting on these mats. Y'all can't see them like John Cena. Even if y'all had 20/20 vision, y'all better listen, pay attention, and take notes down and realize that it's not your time now. And watch these three kings take the crown. Hey, hey.
This is Gino Guts of the Taboo Crew. You're listening to Wrestling IQ 101. Now go get your shine box.
Welcome back to another edition of Wrestling IQ 101. You can follow Wrestling IQ 101 on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, or WrestlingIQ101.com. I'm Andrew alongside Pat and Derek.
Hey, what up?
And today we're sitting with one half of Dirty and Durable, Simply Ravishing, Shawn Donovan. How are you?
I'm doing good. Who said I'm simply ravishing anymore?
I thought that was one of the monikers.
It was for a very, very long time, but I kind of bypassed that a couple of years ago. I kind of just grew out of it, so...
Or the genuine article?
That's me nowadays. That's just me being as real as I can be.
Or the toast of the East Coast?
You know what? That was actually a part of the Simply Ravishing piece, but I always left it on my vest just because I love the moniker. It actually came from... old school wrestler that I studied a lot of, Hollywood John Tatum. Okay. He used to call himself the toast of the West Coast. So I said, let me just take a piece of that and just make me a part of the East Coast. But I still keep it on there, but I like the moniker. But yeah, nowadays it's just the genuine article.
Yeah. So we got so much to talk about BBWF, Wrestlepro, IWF.
Sure.
Everywhere you've been, about wrestling in general. So
sure. Let's shoot the... Are we allowed to curse on this thing?
Yeah.
Sure. Let's shoot the shit. Let's go.
So the first question... everyone has been wondering, who is Shawn Donovan?
Pretty much what you see is what you get. As I said, the genuine article really is just a culmination of the last 16 years of me just fighting, scratching, clawing, dealing with everything there has to do with the sport and the business of professional wrestling, whether it's having a lot of success, having a lot of ups and downs, going through a lot of bullshit in wrestling. I've always said in wrestling that, what a lot of people see is just what they see in the ring and on TV and stuff like that. But no one truly understands unless they go through what we go through, what it does to you physically, mentally, emotionally, psychologically. So that's really who Shawn Donovan is now, is the genuine article. I'm just if you want to call him, just a humble kid, from New Jersey who... first started watching wrestling with his grandfather, like I'm sure a lot of people did. And, first match I saw watching my grandfather, he passed away, unfortunately, about 2 years after that. I was hooked on it ever since, and I never stopped. A lot of people go through ups and downs where they get out of watching wrestling and get back into watching wrestling, but that was never me. It was every day, 24/7, magazines, could not wait for Saturday to come to watch Superstars. I would, in a mean way, growing up in a Catholic household, lie to my parents that I was sick just so I could stay home and not go to church and watch WCW Saturday night. I mean, it was on the case 24/7. If you didn't like wrestling, you weren't a friend of mine. That's just who Shawn Donovan was. And, got a chance to go to a lot of independent shows back in like the mid to late 90s when there were no names on shows, and they were packing 800 to 1,000 people in a gymnasium, and just so happened to hook up with the right people, start training, and here I am 16 years later, still loving this every minute of the day.
So, you tell me where the Dipsy face originated from.
So the Dipsy face was just kind of like a joke. I was actually hanging out at the gym. Of course, everybody knows the Heavenly Bodies, Desirable Dustin, Gigolo Justin. They are two of my best friends, which I've known them for over 10 years. And we were just outside the gym one day, and we just, we took a selfie together, and they dip. Desirable Dustin, he's the Dawn of Desire. So, he just shouted out, he's like, oh, Dipsy, Dipsy and the Dawn, and I'm like, what do you mean by it? He's like, oh, I'm Don, and we'll just, you don't dip, so we're just going to call you Dip. And it just became Dipsy Don for a while, and then the Don just went away, and it just became Dipsy. And that was the name that just became my nickname, but the face just originated for me in studying wrestling, studying facial expressions, and studying a lot of European humor, which is very dry. You know, if anybody knows the character Mr. Bean, Rowan Atkinson, he would make a lot of those faces, and my buddies would just joke around with me anytime I would see anything in wrestling that I just don't like, which is a lot. I'm very opinionated about certain things in wrestling. I would always make that face, and it just so happened one day, we'll talk about BBWF in a little bit, but it's actually the Dipsy face piece actually came from Beefcake Charlie. We're all sitting around the locker room. There was a leftover rubber chicken just hanging around. I don't know why. In a bar, restaurant, there's a rubber chicken, but they made this little video and sent me via text. You know, it's the rubber chicken that has like the O face on it, and you know, they just recorded this little video and said, "Hey, I'm Dipsy Chicken, and I don't like high spots." And they looked at the face, you know, and it just went from there. And then that's just kind of how the Dipsy face really kind of took off. And I just, hey, let's have some fun and run with this. And you know, anyone who's in wrestling knows that anything you try to think of to come up with sometimes never works. It's the shit that you don't come up with just pops up out of nowhere is kind of what sticks. So I took it and ran with it. So that's the Dipsy face. So
nice. So can you kind of tell us, like, at what point did you decide, like, I want to be a wrestler and I'm gonna do this?
I don't know if I know the exact point in doing it, but it was always in my blood from watching it. It's all I ever thought of doing. I mean, when I would watch the characters on TV growing up, you know, my parents were, you know, they weren't wrestling fans, but they knew how much I loved it. And, you know, my dad was really awesome. You know, he would find ways to take me to events, you know, growing up in Jersey at the Meadowlands or Madison Square Garden, or we were on vacation. If they were in town, he'd find a way to take me to, you know, to events and stuff like that. But I don't know if I can really pinpoint one example. It was something that I knew that if I didn't pursue, that I'd probably be left with a void in my life. Mm-hmm. But I knew at a very early age this was something I wanted to do. It was everything. It's the pageantry of the outfits, the entrances, the ability to manipulate a crowd to like you or hate you, or just trying to draw any emotion out of the fans. There's something about it that I just couldn't not do. I mean, I went to school, went to college, and you know, even though I had some, you know, career goals set up for myself, this was all I ever wanted to do.
Yeah, it's funny you said that, because that was going to actually be one of my questions. Like, I when I was looking you up and I saw, like you said, like the theatrics, the pageantry, controlling the crowd and stuff like that, I thought that was interesting, because I kind of like never heard anyone else ever say that before. Okay. It's kind of like, oh, there was this one match, or I saw this, and that's like a good perspective. Like did that kind of like, I don't know, I would say like resonate more with you than like, you know, the actual wrestling itself?
No, the wrestling did, you know, kind of grab my attention too. But, you know, as a kid, I was always a fan of the villains. Yeah. I don't know why. But really the only good guy I ever really liked growing up in wrestling was the Ultimate Warrior. Yeah. And his entrance just was like thunderous. And the tassels, the colors, everything like that kind of just really took me in. But I think not necessarily a specific match per se, but a specific group of wrestlers kind of what drew me in. You know, I only to when I got to probably the age of 10 is in the area that I moved to is where I started getting NWA, WCW. And I think the two guys that really drew me into the wrestling aspect in terms of the character and the in-ring ability, more so from a character perspective, was Rick Rude, obviously. Yeah. You know, and when people ask about, you know, Simply Ravishing and me, you know, being that was really more of an homage to him. Yeah. From a character perspective, the way he was able to control men and women really kind of got me on that piece there. But the in-ring aspect was Arn Anderson. His promos, which I take a lot from, and his in-ring ability. If there's anyone that could tell me wrestling was fake, I would say, yeah, maybe it is, but Arn Anderson's the realest fucking guy in the room. Yeah. From his promos to his in-ring, where you just believed everything he did. So, I can't pinpoint one match, but those are probably some of the pieces of the puzzle that really said, I have to do this. I have to do it.
Yeah. So I wanted to talk to you about how Michael Blake, how did that come about, and the evolution you guys have taken to where you guys are now?
So when I first started my training back in 2001 with IWF, we had some partnerships with a number of other independent organizations. There was one in Pennsylvania known as IWA Pennsylvania, was ran by a local journeyman wrestler named Rapid Fire Maldonado. And I had met Michael Blake. We were doing a show at his school, which, back in the day, you think of a lot of different schools. You would think that it's, performance center standards, and it's nothing like that. This was a school that was literally inside of a barn, second floor. And I remember the day clear as day because I remember there was no place to park. There was all dirt roads, and I literally parked alongside of a board that was fenced in for cows. So, and I walk in the door, and I remember I was teaming with him in a tag match that day, and we just so happened to have kind of like matching gear. And he had been training with Rapid Fire and IWA for a while, and then he, obviously meeting Kevin Knight, who ran IWF at the time, hooked up with him, and then he started training at IWF, and we literally started our careers almost mirrored. I think he was maybe a couple of months before me, but kind of just paving my way as a singles. And Kevin Knight needed tag team, so he just stuck Michael Blake and I together, and we just evolved. We were just at the time, you're starting out, no one really has a character, so to speak. You're kind of just you, and we kind of floundered as a mid-card babyface tag team, and then we kind of broke up, and I went singles as a heel. And then at some point he turned heel, and I had taken a break from wrestling for a little bit, heal up some injuries and stuff like that. And when I came back, he was already a heel, so okay, let's bring us back now as heels. And that's, I think, where we really started to like find our stride and really kind of felt our way around, and we tagged a lot everywhere, whether it was for the old NWA New Jersey, which was ran by Dapper Johnny and Gino Moore. And then again, I had to take some time off due to some personal issues. And then once we got back together again, it was like steamrolling again. And then this past time around, I took a really, a decent stretch of time off to deal with life and stuff like that. And he was kind of out of wrestling for a while once the original IWF closed up. And I had started doing some shows for Wrestlepro, and he found that itch again. And it had been probably, I want to say, close to 10 years since he and I last teamed up. And we were just at a training session one day, and we did a tag match, and it was like, I guess if you want to call it magic, so to speak. It's just like we knew each other still like the back of our hands, and we just said, it's still there. And I said, you know what? We could do singles, but I think we could do a heck of a lot more damage in terms of our abilities in the ring with younger guys and established guys if we were to team up again. Because I've always loved tag team wrestling. There's something about 4 guys in the ring and a manager, and if all 4 guys are on the same page, what you can do in a ring. So that was kind of the evolution of us. And obviously this time around, we're a lot more mature as men than we were, kids growing up in the wrestling business. We kind of know who we are and outside the ring, so it's how we are.
It's kind of funny because the first match I saw of you took on the Amazing Graysons, and Ali Rex was in the corner, and you just bring up the 4 people in the ring and the manager. Like, that's so, put it all together, like, watching you. Were you guys close in between that time?
Yeah, I mean, during the time I was taking time off and stuff like that, we would always make it a point to talk all the time. He obviously has his own thing going on in life. He's got a family and things of that nature, so that's obviously first and foremost him. But it's not like one of those things where like we just didn't talk for years and then just started talking again. He's one of my closest friends, not just in wrestling but in life. We always kept in contact with one another, and he always made sure that we were good and stuff like that. So there's always been that bond that's there, and I've nothing but absolute love and respect for him. And I think in all the years that we've known each other, I don't think we've ever had an argument. So we've made up disagreements, but never had an argument. But he's a wonderful human being.
So talking about your training and the younger guys, how would you compare when you were coming up training to how the younger guys train now, and like when you work with them? How would you compare the different styles as far as training goes?
I think training is different on so many levels now, just because of the fact that there's so many wrestling schools that are around, and not necessarily all of them are really great, so to speak. I mean, you look at wrestling these days, anyone can go onto highspots.com and buy a ring and rent out, some space, and all of a sudden, boom, I'm this training school. I think when I first started, there weren't as many schools around, and you really had to do your research, and you had to find out who are the reputable people to be trained by. And I think this day you still have to do that, but you have to weed through so much. I'll put it this way: you have to weed through a lot of garbage. Yeah. But when I first started training, it was, I think to my knowledge, there was around the tri-state area, there was Johnny Rod's school, there was IWF, there was Monster Factory, which I think at the time was still being run by Larry Sharp. And there was IWA in PA, and then there was Chaotic Wrestling, which was out in Massachusetts. But as close by, that was very local and close for me, that I could get there, 3-4 days a week. And the training was very different back then too. It was, and I think it still is too. But you talk about a lot of old school wrestlers who went through, like Ricky Steamboat, I remember, would talk about having to, pick up guys in a fireman's carry position and have to climb, flights of stairs, and they pretty much weeded you out of wrestling if you don't want to do it by doing all these insane cardio and endurance drills and blow up drills and things of that nature. But it was the same when I started with IWF too. It was, you had to be in shape. So, before starting your training, it was 200 push-ups, 200 jumping jacks, 200 squats, jog around the building 5-6 times, and only then would you get in the ring at that point. I think nowadays schools are easier. I think if you find the right school who does it right by reputable trainers, they're still doing it the same way, but not to that degree, because I think wrestling has evolved. I think most schools who do it right are doing more cardio-based endurance drills in the ring to really get your ring shape up. But I don't think there's a need to go that route and, kill somebody. I know some wrestling schools still do that, and I think they should close down because of it, or people should just leave, because wrestling has evolved these days. You want to be fresh in the ring. You don't want to be drained to the point where you can't even do anything properly in the ring because your body is so worn down from all those calisthenics that at the end of the day it really does nothing for you. And I think the trainers that do that are pieces of shit. They just be very honest. There are some schools in the tri-state area that do that, and I don't agree with that. The goal is to learn how to do this correctly, and yes, you have to be in shape, but it's not just partly the school helping you, it's the person doing it that has to be in shape. Yeah. They have to be the ones to take the reins and say, if I really want to do this, I've got to get my body in the best shape possible, and what am I going to do outside of that school to do that? If they can't afford a gym membership, hey, there's a track. You can do your own calisthenics. You can learn stuff on YouTube on what to do to get in shape. But, I'm a very big proponent still, though, of in-ring training, though. I'm doing this, getting close to 2 decades, and I still love training. I still train at least, once to twice a week, getting in the ring. And I like going. I don't half-ass, I go full speed. But I think for me nowadays, too, I enjoy helping the newer guys, too. Try to help give them some little tips and stuff that maybe I necessarily wasn't given, very early on. But the training aspect, that you can't train enough. But I think, again, it all comes down to finding the right school with the reputable trainers, and making sure they have a good program set up too. If you visit a school and they don't really have a program set, and they're just burning you out with calisthenics, you're really not learning anything.
Yeah. It's all about, like safety in the ring. You don't want guys getting hurt.
Yeah, I agree. If you burn your students to have them do 300 squats, how are they going to be able to get in the ring and learn how to safely do a move when they have no legs underneath it?
Yeah.
You could say, oh well, we're building their ring shape and their cardio and stuff like that, and that's all true to a degree. But you can also do that in the gym too.
Yeah.
Again, the training should be fun, but it should be taken seriously too. And you kind of can't take it seriously when you have no legs or anything under you to be able to properly do, a drop down or a leapfrog or something like that. There's a difference between blow up drills and just burning somebody to the ground. It doesn't get anybody anywhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So with IWF, you accomplished a lot. Heavyweight championship, American championship, tag team championship. Can you kind of just tell us about like your experiences there and IWF as a company and just of that nature?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, IWF is where I started. IWF is the school that gave me the opportunity to get into the sport of professional wrestling, and I will always pay it forward there. It's still a great promotion. It's a great school. I have nothing but respect, for Kevin for giving me that opportunity. I know I'm sure if you talk to a number of other people's, like anybody in wrestling, everyone's going to have a different opinion on someone.
Yeah.
Kevin always treated me right, and still to this day continues to, treat me right. And, he and I still talk. I haven't done as many shows for them lately, just because I want to be able to really get back out there and really make a go at this one more time. And, I've been afforded some opportunities by a number of other promotions that inhibit that, but it's still a great promotion over the years. I've met, a number of my best friends are from there. So that's another thing I have to thank Kevin for. If I didn't train there and wasn't there for the longest period of time, I would have met guys like the Heavenly Bodies. I would not have met, Michael Blake or guys like Biggie Biggs, who a lot of those guys became, like Biggie Biggs is I consider one of my closest friends, and he's a mentor to me still to this day because of the longevity that he's had and, what he's done in wrestling. And the training there has always been great, whether it was the original school that was in West Patterson or, the new school that opened up in Nutley. Great training in terms of the basics, the fundamentals. It's very old school style wrestling. Good crowds, very family friendly oriented. But I think, the biggest thing I take away from IWF is the fact that nothing was handed to me there. I worked very hard for all the opportunities that I got there and opportunities that I got to try out for WWE. All of that was because of Kevin and IWF. At the time when I was doing a lot there was because I was training 4 days a week, twice on Sundays. I was, busting my hump, and I truly believe that if you work hard enough, the opportunities will come for you. I'm not someone that kisses anybody's ass or tries to do any of that type of stuff or, buddy up with somebody just because I'm looking for an opportunity. Some people do that in wrestling. I don't do that. That's not me. That's just the way I was raised too in life. But I have absolutely nothing but respect for IWF. And I would still recommend anyone who wants to train and get into wrestling, go if you're close by, check them out. They're definitely a reputable school to this day.
When I hear like Kevin Knight, that name, I think of a guy that's just incredible promoter. Like you always hear about IWF on whether they're on Channel 12 News, they'll be in like the newspaper like every week. I've seen them on ESPN before. They're always in everything. Like how do you compare a guy that's such a great promoter for something like Kevin Knight compared to working with a guy like Pat Buck that's has such a great mind for the wrestling business?
It's hard to compare the two because I think they're two unique personalities. With Kevin, he's a master promoter. He got his start in doing radio. So he understands the business end of having to plug your business and obviously having to get your business out there. And obviously being able to make contacts with, people like NBC and ESPN and, Channel 12 News to promote your business is great because you have to get out there and do that. As far as, how he goes about things, again, he's very calculating. He plans directly in advance for things, and he's someone that plans months in advance. So, with Pat, you're talking about a guy that went through the system, for so many years in OVW and has literally, I consider Pat probably one of the best wrestlers, probably in the world because he knows so many different styles. And that's just my opinion. He learned so much from, working OVW and underneath that umbrella, but he also branched out and has learned other, styles of wrestling. And I think when it comes to branding, Wrestlepro and things of that nature, the differences in his shows you can see are because of his different training styles. Where Kevin is more of an old school style-based wrestling, I think with Pat and with Wrestlepro, his branding is very different. It's eclectic. It's a mixture of his own homegrown guys, a mixture of guys that have been in wrestling for a long while that are journeymen like myself. And then you add in those other names, a Ryback, a Cody Rhodes, bringing in different styles of guys like Brian Cage, from Lucha Underground. And then the way he trains his students, very different styles. Somebody like me who trains there, I'm able to now learn a lot of different styles that I never did in all the years that I've done this. And now it's how do I find a way to incorporate my old school style with some of that new school and kind of develop a newer style for myself. But then you have different guys on his roster that do different things. You've got big guys like a Craig Steele who can, work like a big man. You have guys like Habib, who can do a lot of the high flying. And I think you mix in some of those oddball characters like a CPA who is not your traditional wrestler. He's a character that you have to react to. And then you've got those hardcore in your face guys like a Dan Moff and a Kevin Matthews. So I think when it comes to branding WrestlePro, you can brand it so many different ways. And, I think the reason why WrestlePro is gaining a lot of success too is because of that unique style. It's not your typical indie where maybe you have one or two names on your show. I mean, we're packing houses with guys like Ryback and Cody Rhodes and Brian Cage on the same exact show. And, we're running in different venues like a Starland Ballroom that, doesn't normally necessarily would see wrestling. So I think, Pat has a very unique mind for wrestling. And the way he brands his business is completely different than Kevin Knight. So, and I think, sky is the limit the way WrestlePro is growing right now too. So
going to BBWF, you actually got to take on the boss, Pat Buck. How was it like wrestling him?
Different. Everyone has unique styles in wrestling, and I'm sort of the guy that I like to kind of just go out there and just feel the crowd and just not really just have anything, put together. Pat is very precise in terms of how to put something, of that style together. And being able to take my strengths and incorporate it with his was a lot of fun. Very easy to say. Pat's a guy that likes to go, and I'm a guy that likes to go. So if you're gonna go with Pat Buck, you gotta be in shape. That's the easiest way I can put it. But I had nothing but fun, and I take everything as a learning experience, and I learned a lot from wrestling him just in that one match. So everything I always try to take from my matches is a learning experience. We're our own worst critics. I'll sit back and I'll watch my matches over and over and over again. So I could have done this here, should have done this there. And then I'll take the feedback from somebody else like a Pat. We talk afterwards and maybe would have done this here, do a little bit differently here. So I enjoy, especially when I can, learn from someone. Even from taking knowledge from somebody who may have been wrestling 4 years. I'll ask, hey, what'd you think of the match? Because you never know that they might throw something out there that says, maybe I might not agree, but what if we took it and we did it this way? So now you learn, from someone else too. So always got to keep your mind open in wrestling.
So talking about feeling the crowd in that match, can you just explain the 2 sugars, 1 Splenda chant?
I am, if anyone has, known me or seen, my social media, I am a coffee junkie. That's just how I drink my coffee.
It was the weirdest chant.
Yeah, and I know Pat reacted to it as well because he didn't know.
That was so funny.
I didn't know either.
I know.
One fan shouted that out. It really is just, that's how I drink my coffee with 2 sugars and 1 Splenda. And again, it's just one of those things that kind of just comes out of nowhere where, and again, I don't know if this was Justin or Mark or it might have been Fala. I think we were all just sitting around one day and they just we were at a diner and they just, hey, Donovan, you need this. And they threw 2 sugars and 1 Splenda. Somebody took a picture of all of us when we were at the diner, and whoever put up the picture, they put the hashtag 2 sugars, 1 Splenda. I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to run with this. And I think I got the idea from Fala because, he's such a unique character. And again, one of my closest friends. And when he's at shows, he's got such a following. If anyone has seen his following, he has this obsession with pandas.
Yeah.
And people have brought him stuffed animals to events, food relating to like pandas, like it's like a brand, you know, stuff like that. So I'm like, oh, what if I can try to get people to bring me coffee to shows?
Yeah.
So that's where I kind of started promoting that 2 sugars, 1 Splenda. No one has actually brought me a full coffee, but somebody actually did bring me a 12-pack of Cafe Bustelo K-Cups for the Keurig machine, which is my favorite coffee. So it's catching on a little bit, but anytime I get free coffee, I'll take it.
Ever since that show, I noticed the hashtag.
Yeah.
I noticed the hashtag.
Yeah, it's been there for a long, long time, but nobody really notices it. So it's just kind of more of like an inside joke type of thing that just kind of took its way. So
the funniest thing was we had Fala on, and like Pat wanted him to get a panda like logo on his tights,
right,
and he took it as he wanted him to dress up as a panda.
Yeah, like a panda mask, a panda everything.
Panda suit.
You know, I'm always somebody that's I'm a gear mark, so I'm somebody that gets new gear every couple of months. I mean, I have boxes of gear that I don't wear anymore. And I was actually toying around. I'm somebody that, you know, I actually draw my own gear out. I don't take from any designs. I draw. I'm somebody that sits at my desk and I will just sketch and do all these type of things. And I actually showed one of my buddies once. I actually had an idea, like, you know, if you hold like 3 cards up and it kind of looks like a fan almost. I was actually trying to design something like that actually had, like, it was like 2 sugars and like 1 like 2 white packets and 1 yellow packet. It never came to fruition.
Oh, man.
I don't know. Maybe at some point you'll see the giant Dipsy face on my butt. So who knows?
Cool.
It's an
We
idea.
have a T-shirt.
Yeah, the T-shirt. I may just take the face and put it boom right on my
Did
butt.
you draw that?
No, I did not. As a matter of fact, I had the idea of always wanting to get like some caricature work done just for promotional purposes, and just so happens that I hooked up with somebody who knew a gentleman by the name of Jay Slack, who actually writes or draws characters in the back of PWI. And he hooked me up with him, and I kind of told him my idea, and you know, he ran with it. He actually did one for myself and Michael Blake, which is very unique, which I will display that at some point. It'll probably be our next set of merchandise. But the Dipsy Face one that he did is actually a 3-parter that I haven't released. He actually did it in storyboard form. So the next part I'll probably release at some point, which will be the next shirt for me as a single, is to just kind of keep the idea and the merch running. So I think that's a big part of wrestling that people don't treat properly is the merchandise part.
Yeah. Now to kind of go back a little bit. With your style, when I think of like heels and like independent wrestling, probably my 3 favorite heels: you, Nikos Ricos, and Bobby Wayward.
Okay.
Because you're like the traditional classic heel, and Bobby Wayward, everybody just hates him just because. And Nikos gets that reaction too as well. So with your style though, I think you're a little bit different because you're more like the old school, like, I'm going to work your knee the whole match. I'm going to work your shoulder the whole match. Do you think it's like, how do you compare like that type of style to like the newer generation of a heel and kind of like more things that they can do, kind of like being athletic? And kind of like a second part to this question as well. Being a heel as well, I feel like you're supposed to have people just hate you.
Yeah.
So I believe it was like Kevin Owens who said, or somebody, it's like, why am I going to do all these flashy moves? I'm a heel. People are supposed to hate me. I'm just supposed to beat the other guy up. Like, what are kind of like your takes on that as well?
Yeah, I think, you know, being a heel is exactly what it is. When I, you know, got a chance to really work heel and really, I think I found myself being a heel. And it really, as a babyface, that was, you know, pretty good. But again, as I spoke about earlier, I always gravitated to the heels because of the way that they can just manipulate a crowd. And I think that was just something, for me, just being a natural, I don't want to say I'm a natural antagonist, but like I'm a very sarcastic individual. So, you know, sometimes when I say certain things, I kind of say some, just kind of see what someone's reaction is going to be, so to speak. And I think, you know, being a heel is exactly what it is. I'm not looking to, you know, be a cool heel or anything like that. You know, I want to be that heel that someone legitimately wants to hate me. You know, I want you to throw a full can of soda at me. I want you to want to jump over the guardrail. So I will always, to me, within reason, I will push the limits as far as I really can. with a crowd without getting a little too out of control with it. But I appreciate being put in the company of a Nikos and a Bobby Wayward, because I think they're they're the same types. But I think the generation of the style that I wrestle in is a very old school style.
Yeah.
It's a ground and pound, work a body part over, and I'm someone that's very quick too, quick witted. Somebody throws a comment at me in the crowd, I'm pretty good with being able to get one right back at him and kind of shut him up a little bit.
Yeah.
But I'm also somebody that I don't have a problem kind of starting something with, and then when they react to me back, I shut them down, right back again. But I think the new generation of heels is very different. Obviously as wrestling evolves, we're in a very competitive market right now where that high flying style, high spot style is very strong right now.
Yeah.
And I really got a chance to see that a lot. WrestleCon weekend in Florida, there was a super show going on, and there was a 10-man tag that probably had every great aerial wrestler that there is in wrestling today, from Will Ospreay to Ricochet to Desmond Xavier. And it was probably the most perfect 10-man tag I think I've ever seen, that displayed athleticism, high spot, strong style, you name it. And I think looking at it today, I have to look at it as, okay, I do work that old style, but maybe I've got to change gears a little bit. And maybe I have to not necessarily get flashy, but I've got to incorporate a little bit more, like anybody has to do to stick with the times. So I think today's generation of a heel, I think it's kind of in a gray area, so to speak. Because everyone has different opinions of, well, heels have to do moves.
Yeah.
I can understand that, and I think there may be a time and place for that. But like you said, Kevin Owens says, I'm a heel. Why do I need to do moves?
Yeah.
I think for me, it's like any wrestler who wants to stay relevant, you have to continue to change with the times, and you have to continue to update yourself. And for me, that's where studying everything I can comes into play. And again, that's where I think training comes into play, because that's where you have the ability to try different things and see what can work, what won't work, and how do you still keep it true to who you are as that individual, as that heel. So if I were to come up with something that looks kind of flashy, sure, you can cheer all you want. I'm not looking to be cheered. I'm looking to beat my opponent. That's what I'm trying to do. So I think, and again, I know I've spoken to people like, Rip Rogers, who I know if you see his tweets, he does not believe in anything high spot. So, but it's okay though. Everyone's got their own opinion, and I think that's the way wrestling has to be nowadays. It's subjective. It always has been. So you're gonna have somebody that likes, that style. Some people that doesn't like that style. But you have to be open to say to yourself, okay, we're in a business where everything is just so subjective more than ever. How do you find the right balance to what's going to get you to be successful?
Now, everything at BBWF is completely different from Wrestlepro. With the Taboo Crew, they come out separate from Gino Gotts. You have a singles path, almost. You got the chance to wrestle Dan Moff. How was it like wrestling him? Because that match was awesome. Like the barricade going over the place. I mean,
it hurt, that's for sure.
We wrestled another match on top of that, too.
That was on short notice, too. I probably would say wrestling Dan Moff is probably the best singles match I think I've had in 16 years. Just from everything. Dan is a consummate professional. I can't speak highly of him enough. He's someone that's been on my bucket list for a long time. But he's also somebody that is as intense as they get. And if you can't match that level of intensity, don't even bother showing up to the building, because he's someone that's going to push you, is going to bring a lot out of you. And he's somebody that, again, if you want to look at him, he's not a gigantic high spot style guy. He's more of an old school type guy too, but he finds a way to mix a little bit of that high spot with it too. And he's very hard hitting, and same thing too there. You have to be able to match that intensity and that story. And if you can't, like anybody in a match, if you can't match someone's intensity, you're not going anywhere. With Dan Moff, you have to have, I guess the word I would use is you have to be in sync with someone when telling a story. If you can match that personality and you can tell that story without having to even say anything to that individual, and you can really be intense, then I think it just makes for an overall better match, not just with Damoff, with anybody. If both people are in sync with the story, and I don't mean the moves or anything like that, it's the facial expressions. It's knowing when to show a specific facial expression at a specific time. It's knowing when to have your body move at a different pace at a certain time in the match that tells fans they know what part of the story you're in. And I think I'm pretty good at doing that. I know Damoff's very good at doing it. I think when you have two guys that can do that, if you just kind of take all the moves out of the way, the story is there. And if you put it all together with the moves, then you have something that is, I guess you want to call it perfect. That's a match I look back and I've watched probably 6-7 times already, and I've spoken to him. We wouldn't have changed a thing. So you don't get a chance to have very many of those. But again, it speaks to, there weren't as many fans in the crowd as we would have liked, but it's that old school mentality of whether there's 50 or 500 people, you still go out there and you give those fans everything that they paid their ticket to see.
It was worth the price. I was there.
Appreciate the compliment. So.
And then you've also got to work with Damian Gibbs. Mm-hmm. How is it like wrestling a guy like him?
Fun. Very easy and fun. He's a guy he's a great wrestler, but he's a character in himself. So I think, working with somebody like Damian Gibbs, it's, again, very different style from Damoff. He's very, his character is extremely egocentric.
Yeah.
So you really have to play to that character as opposed to wrestling him. Yeah. It's kind of like a CPA. I had a chance to wrestle him, and you're not wrestling CPA. You're just reacting to everything that he does. Yeah. And if you're able to put yourself out there, which I'll be very honest, a lot of wrestlers aren't because they take themselves too seriously. Yeah. That's where I think a lot of times people struggle wrestling characters. Yeah. They have to be able to step outside who they are and just have fun with it. I'm someone I will make a complete fool out of myself being a bumbling idiot heel if I need to be, as long as the crowd gets the story and the match, gets over. I think that's a big thing in wrestling that people don't understand is they take themselves too seriously. A little tidbit that somebody that taught me something was Chris Candido. And he said to me one time in a group that we were all talking in, he said, never take yourself seriously. Take what you do in the ring seriously. Yeah. And I think that's a hard transition for a lot of people in wrestling. Past year and even sometimes nowadays in wrestling, I think some people have a hard time, separating themselves from, their character and just being able to freely put themselves out there and go out there and just entertain.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. You, someone else who I consider kind of like that old school, Eddie Kingston. Mm-hmm. That was your first match you had against Eddie Kingston.
You guys have done your research. Yeah, Eddie Kingston was my first match in IWF in 2001, and I think Eddie's a phenomenal performer. Yeah. I think again, any success he's had, I think he's earned it. To stay relevant in this sport and kind of change his path. I liked Eddie a lot. We only trained for a couple of months when I first started in IWF. He was there with a group of guys. Even one of the guys who now wrestles all over the world, his name's Jigsaw. Was there at that time too. And great group of guys. I wish I got a chance to work with Eddie a lot more. Yeah. Again, he decided with some of his buddies to leave IWF and kind of choose their own path. And, they ended up really, I think, becoming some of the forefathers and the reason why Chikara has become a success. Yeah.
And Jersey All Pro.
And Jersey All Pro as well,
yeah. I grew up watching him.
So, just a great dude in general. We've crossed paths here and there, but I absolutely have nothing but respect for him. And the fact that he's, made it to the dance with Impact Wrestling too, is really awesome to watch those guys, Yeah. I'm very happy to see anyone that I've ever crossed paths with that has worked hard to really, get an opportunity to shine.
Yeah. Now we talk with, like a lot of guys, does seeing things like that does that kind of give you more motivation? Even though I'm probably sure you don't need any more motivation to get where you want to get, but do things like that influence you?
100% all the time. I always, I am very happy for those that make it to the dance. I have a couple of friends that work for WWE right now, and very happy for all their success. I know some people will always kind of look back and they'll just, why wasn't it me, or why wasn't it me here, or why did they get the opportunity? I did more, I wrestled longer, etc.
Yeah.
For me, it's you have to stay positive in wrestling, and we all go through in wrestling or any type of sport that you try to do or in life. We all have those ebbs and flows and down periods where we kind of get negative on ourselves and things of that nature. But it only motivates me even more to want to keep doing this, to say, hey, hopefully at the right point and being in front of the right people at the right time, that maybe my opportunity will come. I think it's just staying positive. For me, that's where it needs to be. If I ever get the opportunity, I'll be very happy to know that I probably earned it, as opposed to, if you want to call the old wrestling phrase, right, riding someone's coattails or things of that nature. But I've never been one of those guys that saw my buddies make it and say, why not me? Yeah. We all get those opinions in our head of why not me, but it never has ever been anything, malicious. If anything, like I said, it motivates me more to keep doing this. Mm-hmm. And I think, for me, and I'm not a spring chicken or anything like that, I think what motivates me a lot these days is being able to still go and do it with guys that are half my age that could probably and should probably run circles around me. Mm-hmm. I think that's what motivates me more, is being able to still get in there and create something with someone that's half my age or my same age, or even some of the guys that are older than me, and still being able to go out there and kind of say, in the back of our minds when you walk through the curtain, say, okay, follow that. That type of mentality. That's what drives me. It's the thrill of the competition, and what can we put together that will give the fans, a really exciting match.
Right. So, talking about making it to the show, I have a little visual aid here. Mm-hmm. This is your commercial. You had a lot of FaceTime in this too. Yes. So I just want you to walk me through a lot of this as we play through it. Sure. I'm just gonna respond.
Yeah, I haven't seen this video in a while.
Comes through the door right here.
That's me in the background, Mr. Assistant Coach.
Oh, this gentleman right here.
There's Darren Young. There's Kevin Knight. And then, I don't know where he's pictured, but Kevin's in there. Brandon Young.
There he is again.
There's me again.
Here comes a
whole slew of guys. My God, this was a fun day. It was an absolute fun day.
There goes Darren Young.
Yep. And right in the face right at the end, and that's actually Roman Zachary and taking the ankle lock, and then Vince himself. So that was a fun day filming something like that. I don't know how that opportunity came about. I know at the time Dr. Tom Pritchard, who I will put over to anybody, who has really been a mentor to me in a lot of different ways. I've known him and done a lot of his camps over the years. When he was the head of talent relations for WWE back in the early 2000s, and he was coming to a lot of schools, including IWF, I assume that's where the kind of the hookup came to do that, and that was a lot of fun. And a couple funny stories from that day of filming was. I didn't want to be the assistant coach. I wanted to be one of the football players getting my ass handed to me. But again, being so young, not realizing till years later, wow, I had the most FaceTime.
Yeah, it's on your face. Yeah,
like every scene. Looking back on it now, it's like, okay, now I'm happy I was the assistant coach. But I actually, in the first part of filming, I actually was one of the football players. And you don't see it you can kind of see it up close where Benoit is putting the, we want to say that name? Where he's putting the crossface on. You kind of see a little bit of somebody hitting the ground for a split second there. Yeah. And the way that scene was designed was Cena was giving me FUs.
Okay.
It's not fun to take about 10 or 12 FUs in full football gear on actual ground like that, and then to know that it wasn't even used. And then I had to basically the guy who was supposed to show up to be the assistant coach never showed. They looked at a bunch of guys. They thought, for my the way I looked, that I probably fit that bill. So guess I got to do double the work, even though one of them wasn't, involved with that. But you talk about a fun day of getting to just, meet a lot of these guys and just, have some conversation. It was very, very humbling to be chosen to have an opportunity like that. And the fun part about, I think the second part I think is kind of fun about that was about a month or so afterwards, because this, I think, was shot back in the summertime. So like a month or two later, I am at, I think it was the second or third time I'd ever been, I had done extra work for WWE. And they always had a number of chairs set up in the back with a monitor for all the wrestlers to watch. And I'm kind of just sitting there, just, kind of by myself. And, Bubba Ray and Devon are kind of just sitting right next to me and a bunch of other guys. And, as they're watching it live, the commercial plays. And I just feel like all of a sudden a number of people are kind of just looking at me and looking back at the TV and then looking at me again and trying to say, is that the same guy? And I think I remember at one point, Devon kind of looked at me and I just went, I shook my head. I'm like, yep, that's me. And I just continued watching and he just kind of smiled and nodded because he was there that day too and just maybe didn't remember. But it was just kind of funny. As a little funny joke. If you want to call it that. It's just, imagine all these guys who are on a roster where you want to be, and they're just kind of staring at me like, did I do something wrong?
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So Darren Young was in the video. Now, I had heard you were the one that brought him into wrestling.
Who'd you hear this from?
I got
got
my
sources.
sources. Yeah.
Please, tell me the sources. I want to see if they're true or not.
You tell me.
Yeah. To a degree, yes. I worked at a local gym in the area, and Darren Young was. I remember if I tell it right. So this was 2001 or I think it was 2002. It was Thanksgiving Day. So against a local gym, they weren't open, but I had the keys because I would open and close the gym. So I went in for a workout. And a buddy of mine who's still a close friend to this day was one of the trainers there. And he was I believe his brother-in-law employed Fred, Darren Young, at a local place where he was working at. And they all showed up at the gym. And at that point, Fred is, just a brick shit house, like just thick. And he's like, oh, I love wrestling and stuff like that. And I said, hey, we were with IWF at the time. And I said, hey, we're doing a show in, I believe it was Edison. I said, why don't you come check out the show? And if you like it, let me know. I'll get you in touch with Kevin. He came, he checked out the show, really enjoyed it. Michael Blake and I were tagging at the time. So, after that, I put him in contact with Kevin. He came over, he checked out the school, he joined, and the rest is history. He's someone that, again, busted his ass and deserves every bit of the success that he's had. He started like a house of fire, and you could tell he was just a natural. I mean, he picked up training very quickly, even faster than I did when I first started a couple of years prior. But, he was someone that, again, trained 4 days a week, busted his butt in the gym, did everything he needed to do to get in front of the right people over the years. And, when the time was right, he got that opportunity and got signed. And, again, all his hard work got him to where he is right now. So nothing but love and respect for him too. So, I may have helped get his foot in the door, but he's the guy that, I would say, for lack of a better term, knocked the door down. Yeah. And he's a tremendous individual. Yeah.
WWE, tag team champ all these years later.
Yeah. And, he does a lot of work with Be a Star, and, I could not be happier for his success. If there's anybody that deserves success, it's him, because I know a lot of the struggles he's gone through. I've seen some of the struggles he's went through. So for him to be able to bounce out of all that and, do what he's doing now is a credit to the type of person that he is.
Nice. Now being, in wrestling going, you said almost on 2 decades now.
Yeah. In and out.
When you look at new talent, is there anybody you see that you just there's like great new talent that's just wrestling right now?
A lot. I mean, I was just at a Ring of Honor camp very recently, and I saw a lot of guys that I've never heard of or seen before, that have actually been wrestling for a pretty decent time. There's a gentleman by the name of Wrecking Ball Legursky who works in the Connecticut area, Northeast Wrestling. Giant guy. Just a great big man. I think he's got a lot of upside to him. Another gentleman I got a chance to work with at the camp who works in a lot of the New England area, named Josh Briggs. Yeah. About 6'7". Another guy that's just picked it up fast. Maxwell Jacob Feinstein, I think, will be a star in this business. I like the dude a lot. He's a really cool guy. Got a chance to be friends with him. I know some people get his personality, some people don't. If there's anyone who's a legit heel in real life, it's Maxwell Jacob Feinstein. He's got a lot of upside. We talk about like high flying in the spot style wrestling. A guy like Flip Gordon is awesome too. There's so much talent out there now. It's almost scary. Yeah. Because 10 years ago there wasn't this much talent in wrestling. Yeah. And now it's just coming out of the woodwork. Even the younger guys that are at Wrestlepro, like I'm a huge fan of Team España when it comes to tag teams. I think they're great characters. All the guys I can't say enough about at Wrestlepro just because I'm there with them all the time and I see how hard all of them work. Nikos Ricos is another one of those guys who's, I think has got a lot of upside, but there's so many that are probably on my mind. I probably forget to name them all, but there's so many guys out in wrestling now. To me, it's scary, but it almost makes my bucket list full. Yeah, because I want to work all these guys. I've even put up as a Twitter post one time. I said, when is someone going to get smart and book me versus Maxwell Jacob Feinstein? So there's just so much talent out there now. It's hard to even pinpoint just one, but those are some of the guys that really just come to mind. Another guy that I will say is Mark House is another one. Yeah. Him and Colossal Mike Law work as a tag team called The Experience. Mm-hmm. And both of those guys, whether they're singles or in tag team, they're awesome together too. So I can't not mention those guys. So
I love the Maxwell House.
Yeah, fun one night only type thing, I think is what it was. But yeah.
They're both great. And he came out to the ring, Maxwell Jacob Feinstein at House of Hardcore the other when I was there, and man, they were like booing the scarf, they're ripping on him, and he just gives it right back. Yeah. He's phenomenal.
I talk about a guy who's working everywhere, like he is everywhere every weekend. That's amazing to see. Yeah. I'm glad that promoters are giving guys a chance to really shine and do their thing. And, again, like you said, what a better house to, do that in than House of Hardcore with Tommy Dreamer.
So is the Nickelodeon thing true?
What do you mean?
Like you guys, you had a promo on Wrestlepro. You guys said that you did, you had something in the works with Nickelodeon?
Yeah, so back in the day, Kevin Knight, who, ran IWF, always, again, smart businessman, outfitted his school to multiple other things. And it just so happened that Nickelodeon, who was in the city, was looking for a building to shoot a pilot called Nickelodeon Whack. So they had first come to IWF and they selected a bunch of us and we were dressed up in these wacky costumes. It was like a wrestling theme with aliens and stuff like that. But they had filmed some pilot work there, and then they invited us to a number of the same guys to do it again. They were doing it at some boxing gym in New York. It wasn't Johnny Rod's or anything like that, but it was somewhere in Brooklyn. I don't remember. And then after that, the pilot was kind of taking on a life of its own to where they actually rented out a studio in the same building that Martha Stewart ran her show. Sure. And it was full lights. I mean, it was gorgeous. The best thing I remember that day was the catering was phenomenal. But yeah, same thing again. And that pilot was in the works. And by the time anybody found out anything about it, I guess the word came down that it was too violent for Nickelodeon.
Oh man!
Which, looking back on, I don't know how it was. I mean, I was dressed up as a female alien, and my one spot in that pilot for all those hours we're there was nailing one of the other aliens with a purse.
Man.
So again, I don't know if it was specifically the time slot they were looking to air that they considered it too violent. You know, if it was a time like when, you know, little kids would be watching as opposed to like Nick at Night or something like that.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, after those 3 pilots, it never got picked up by Nickelodeon. So, but you know, a lot of opportunities thanks to the actual sport of wrestling that, you know, I've been given to do some different things, you know, acting and stuff like that to kind of branch off. So, you never know where this crazy business is going to take you. You never know when someone's going to be watching or show up at an event, and you never know who you're going to meet. So that's wrestling for you.
Yeah, you think about like Ren and Stimpy or like all the things that they have
right.
on.
And if you look at the underlying tones of Ren and Stimpy,
I know.
Yeah, seriously.
I don't know.
Some crazy stuff.
Yeah.
So
it just comes down to who's watching that pilot or what's taping. And it's like I think it's the same thing with wrestling, right? You get a tryout with WWE. You know, you might have 3 coaches that like you and 1 person that just really doesn't, and they may be someone who is more in a position of power, and that may not be the right time or place for you. So you never know. It's anything in life.
That's
right
true.
Place, right time, right people.
nice. So I'll ask my final question. For anyone that's getting in, you've been doing this a long time. What's the best advice that you can give them?
Be in shape. You got to be in shape. Don't wait till you start at a school to get in shape, because you'll get weeded out very quickly. I don't mean that in a negative way, but your body won't be able to handle it. So I think you got to be in shape is number 1. Number 2, be humble and respectful. I've seen a lot of guys start in wrestling. They've come and gone within, you know, minutes because they just did not have the right attitude. You kind of have to, it's okay to still be a fan, but you kind of have to drop that a little bit and know the world that you're entering into. I think not just that, it's do your homework. And what I mean by that is I've watched wrestling my whole life. I kind of get how certain things are done to a degree, like running the ropes. You kind of see how guys run the ropes. So kind of do your homework and study a little bit because you know you're going to be learning this. So I almost kind of take it as if you're going to interview for a job. You know, do your research on the company you're interviewing for. But then don't be afraid to try new things. I see a lot of that in schools where newer guys, they will only tend to get in the ring with newer guys. They're very afraid to get in the ring with someone that's experienced because they think that they're going to screw up or get hurt or hurt that individual. There's a reason why you want to get in the ring with experienced guys, because they're going to help and teach you. So don't be afraid to get in the ring with newer guys. I think if people kind of take on some of that mentality, you know, you can be successful. But also realize why you want to do this. You know, I know sometimes people, they start out in wrestling and they take that first bump and then they realize that it's not for them. Take a chance on yourself. Don't say, oh, I wish I could have, you know, been a wrestler. Just go for it. You know, go. And then the last piece is make sure you find a reputable school. You know, make sure you do some research on the people who are the head trainers of that school who run the promotion and see what they've done in wrestling. You know, if you are looking up a school that has no notoriety and just because the price on the tuition looks good doesn't mean it's the right place. It's like anything. It's like for me, I said to somebody the other day, I want to get a tattoo done. I said, I'm more than willing to pay the price for it as long as the quality of work is there. I think it's the same thing with wrestling. Don't not join a school just because it might be quote unquote too expensive. I'm sure they may have a tuition plan or things of that nature, but find the people that have done something in wrestling and go and visit the school and see their structure. And if you think you can handle it, make sure you're in shape, show up, get your gear on, and sky's the limit if you really want to put the effort into it, whether you want to just do it as a hobby or you want to make a career out of it. So,
Nice.
You know, and age can't be a factor either. You know, I always put that in my hashtags. Age ain't shit.
Yeah.
It's true. I've seen guys start training at the age of 45 and 50.
Oh, wow.
So there's no limit on age. So if you want to do it, go for it.
Nice. It's good.
So I need you to also decide this age-old debate. Is it Dunkin' Donuts or Starbucks?
For me, it is Dunkin' Donuts. I know a lot of people don't. They think it's dirty dishwater. Whatever you want to call it. I think Starbucks to me is way overpriced and too strong. If you mix it with the right type of creamer and sugar, it tastes good. These days, actually debate that. I probably would actually say Wawa at this point. I think I have found the right blend of how to make my coffee. So it's still Dunkin' Donuts to me because the area that I live in, there's no Wawas around. So until a Wawa comes here, I'm still a Dunkin' Donuts guy. But I think my heart is starting to lean towards Wawa now.
So in the matter of coffee, you do not get what you pay for, unlike tattoos in wrestling. Right?
Correct.
All right.
Yes, that is correct.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. I've had a unicorn frappuccino from Starbucks.
Okay.
And it's probably top 5 best things I've ever had in my life.
I saw people walking around with those things. I've never had a unicorn frappuccino. I will more than happily have Starbucks as long as somebody else is paying for it. I can't pay $4 or $5 for a large coffee or whatever they call it. It's a
Venti, Grande, whatever.
High price bullshit. Just give me a large coffee.
Right?
Take it.
That's the way I feel.
It's funny, man.
The best is when you go through a drive-thru and you get the people. And again, I'm not being mean here, but when you go through a drive-thru and you get that person on the other end that just speaks very little English, and you're trying to get across, I want a large coffee with 2 sugars and 1 Splenda, and they're like, huh? It's too long for them. They're just usually hearing, I want a large coffee black, or I want a large coffee just cream, and you kind of spew that out there. It's like now I'm kind of being like a diva with my coffee.
Oh man!
So you've gotten to face the Apple Core, the Heavenly Bodies, the team of Sanjay Dutt and Fala. Who are some of the people that like a bucket list dream match? If somebody in WWE, past, present, or future, that you want to take on a tag team match?
Wow. That could actually happen, or just in general?
Just in general, like the Road Warriors or the Dudley Boys.
I think to me in a tag match, it would have to be the Minnesota Wrecking Crew.
Nice.
Ole and Arn Anderson.
Yeah.
I love the style with Tully, who brought a little bit more of a flash to that. But I think just straight up, just beat the holy hell out of you and tell a really good story. To me, it would have been, if I had the opportunity to wrestle Ole and Arn, would be out of this world.
Nice.
That would be awesome.
And for us, this is wrestling like, before we
I was about to say, you going before him?
Let me put myself over.
Yeah, what's going on, man? Gotta promote stuff.
So where can people find you on social media and upcoming events if you have?
Sure. Anyone can find me. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. The handle is at Shawn Donovan 01. Hopefully I will get on Snapchat at some point. I keep putting it off, but every keeps saying I need to have a filter with bunny ears and weird stuff. But you can find me on those 3 handles for now. Upcoming events, again, you can still find me at events with, BBWF, Wrestlepro, venturing into some other areas in Delaware and Massachusetts soon. The most recent event you can find me at is June 10th for Wrestlepro in Keyport, New Jersey. If you're still looking to find out where it's at, you can go to WrestleProOnline.com or check out WrestlePro's Facebook or Instagram pages for more info. But you'll see me expanding to a lot more places very, very shortly.
Nice. And if we're talking about one of those good wrestling schools, Creative Pro is definitely a good wrestling school for any starters to get started at, for sure.
100%. Pat Buck and Kevin Matthews and Mario Baccara and Dan Moff are all great guys to learn from at the school, and it's a great and fun atmosphere. So if you're looking for a great wrestling school within that middle to northern New Jersey area, check them out. And again, you can also check out IWF as well. They've got a great program at their school too.
Nice. And for us, you can follow us at Wrestling IQ 101. That's Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, WrestlingIQ101.com. You can listen to this interview, all of our other interviews, all of our great interviews. And we are out.